Donald John Trump, a name that sparks debate, admiration, and outrage, all at once. A billionaire, a businessman, a celebrity, a politician, but above all, a phenomena that shook the world's politics to its core.
This was not the end. It was only the beginning of our fight to rescue the American dream. In order to make America great and glorious again, I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States.
Disaster. He's an embarrassment to this country. It makes me so angry that this country has gotten to this point, that this fool, this bozo, has wound up where he has. This is somebody that we want for president? I don't think so. And what I'm very, very worried about is that it might go in the wrong direction with someone like Donald Trump.
You're not known to be a humble man, but I wonder.
I think I am actually humble. I think I'm much more humble than you would understand.
White supremacy in America, and we have a president who encourages and emboldens it.
No president or prime minister, and for that matter, no other country has ever done anything close to that. And I did it in just 7 months.
That the U.S. imports Russian uranium, chemicals, fertilizers, while criticizing their energy imports. Your response to that, sir?
I don't know anything about it. I'd have to check, but we'll get back to you on that. Yeah, please.
Is Trump an egoist or a visionary? A white supremacist or just a provocateur? Is he a bully or simply bold? Arrogant, obnoxious, or brutally honest? Or maybe Donald Trump is simply smarter than what we think. People call him many names. Some see him as a savior of American pride, others as a threat to American value itself. But beyond all the noise, one question remains: who really is Donald Trump? Let's decode him. Trump was born in 1946 in Queens, New York, into wealth, privilege, and ambition. His father, Fred Trump, was a successful real estate developer, and from him, Donald inherited both fortune and ferocity. From an early age, he learned that winning was everything, and losing was never an option. At the New York Military Academy, Trump built his reputation on discipline and dominance. Later, at the Wharton School of Business, he polished his instinct for deal-making. By 1980s, Trump wasn't just a name. It had become a brand defined by glitz, gold, and grandeur. From skyscrapers to casinos, golf courses to reality TV, Trump didn't just chase success, he marketed himself as its living symbol. But when he entered politics, America was not ready for the storm that was coming. In 2016, Trump defied every prediction, every poll, and every political norm, and became the 45th President of the United States. During his first term, Trump started what the world called the trade war, slapping tariffs on China, Europe, and even allies like Canada and Mexico. He claimed it was to protect American jobs, but the global economy shook. Prices rose, supply chains rattled, and businesses faced uncertainty. Yet, to his supporters, he was finally a president who put America first. Then came one of his boldest foreign policy moves, the Afghanistan withdrawal deal with the Taliban. Trump claimed he was bringing peace and ending the endless wars, but the reality was far more complex. The deal left the Afghan government weakened and the Taliban emboldened, setting the stage for the chaotic withdrawal that unfolded later. In the Syrian conflict too, in late 2018, Trump announced that the US had defeated ISIS in Syria and ordered the withdrawal of roughly 2,000 American troops that was supporting Kurdish-led forces in the north, but within days he walked back the decision, saying a small number of troops would stay behind to protect the oil.
We're keeping the oil. We have the oil is secure. We left troops behind only for the oil. And I have to just finish by saying that the President and I we've been very good friends. We've been friends for a long time, almost from day one.
The sudden reversal left America's allies, especially the Kurds, uncertain and exposed, turning what he called a victory into confusion and chaos on the ground. Now, to truly understand Trump, we need to view him from three perspectives. First, America's ambition. Since the early 1900s, the US has sought to remain ahead of the world in trade, technology, and in military power. Trump embodied that drive but took it to an extreme. He even went as far as to symbolically reframe the Ministry of Defense as the Ministry of War, echoing his aggressive and transactional worldview. He demanded that European nations should increase their defense spending to strengthen NATO, often accusing them of not paying their fair share and putting too much of the financial burden on the United States. His version of America First often turned into America Alone through his tariffs and trade war, and also pulling out of global agreements, bypassing WTO norms and breaking alliances and forcing new deals on his own terms. But the irony lies here: with those tariffs and high priced H-1B visas, it is America itself that has been hurt the most. From groceries to electronics, prices have inflated sharply. And as Trump made it harder for skilled immigrants to enter the US, countries like UK, Germany, Japan, and several in Europe began welcoming intelligent, talented, and skilled Indians to study and work there. So Trump's blockades didn't mark the end of opportunity. They simply opened other doors in the world. Because in the end, those who run businesses are often smarter than governments or global institutions. They always find a way around problems and create their own paths forward. Second, the legacy of US presidency. For over 2 centuries, American presidents built an image of US as a global leader and a moral power. Donald Trump has shattered that image and rewrote the script entirely. He isn't interested in normal diplomacy. He wants dominance. For Trump, politics is business. You negotiate, you pressure, and you win. Tradition didn't matter, only the headlines, the deals, and his own legacy. His focus isn't on upholding presidential norms, but on breaking them to make sure the spotlight never left him. And third, his demeanor and his quest for global dominance. Whether it was his meeting with Kim Jong un, his public praises for Putin, or his trade battles with China's Xi Jinping, Trump's style was the same: confrontational, bold, and commanding. The media calls him unpredictable, but in truth, the opposite. He is simply impulsive. Trump wants the world to fall in a straight line and follow him as he says. You often must have seen him dictating his term to other nations as well, like to stop buying Russian gas and petroleum. Yet, despite his warnings, NATO countries continued buying, and so did China and India. But recently, to counter it, he imposed sanctions on companies who were involved in business with Russian oil firms. Now, pause for a moment and ask, why would countries stop buying cheaper oil and gas from Russia? The answer is simple: economics always overweigh politics. Trump frequently overstated his success, refused to acknowledge his mistakes, and relied on grand gestures and media drama to shape public perception in his favor. Behind every handshake and headlines, there was one goal: to make Trump look like the world's deal maker in chief, even if the facts told another story. In Trump's mind, even the Nobel Peace Prize wasn't out of reach. He believed he could win Nobel this year because, according to him, he brought peace by negotiating a possible nuclear war between India and Pakistan, which India clearly denied, and Pakistan, on the other hand, conveniently agreed after securing IMF loans and striking mineral deals with the US, even going so far as to support Trump's nomination. Similarly, in the case of Israel and Palestine conflict, in October he unveiled what he called a 20-point peace plan between Israel and Hamas, a sweeping proposal that promised to end the Gaza conflict and secure the release of hostages and bring stability to the region. Under the first phase of his deal, Hamas agreed to release the remaining Israeli hostages and return the bodies of those who died in captivity. In exchange, Israel freed thousands of Palestinian prisoners and began a partial troop withdrawal. Trump proudly announced it as the biggest peace breakthrough in decades, claiming personal credits for brokering it. But many of its 20 points remained vague and question persisted about who would truly govern Gaza afterwards. Because a terrorist group like Hamas, driven by political ambition, refused to compromise. But what Trump called peace was more of a political showcase rather than a real solution. Still, his chase for Nobel continues, and I have no doubt he could actually win it, and I'll tell you about that in a moment. However, Trump world isn't without challenges. Europe and NATO countries aren't his challenges because they are threatened enough from Ukraine-Russia war. And every battle in which Europe get involved, that battle was fought in their homeland, not in United States. It leaves behind a vast destruction and economic losses, which is not going to be easy to recover this time. And by any war that was fought in Europe has made America richer and prosperous. And America thrives when it sells ammunition, jets, missiles, and all the war supplies, because peace in the world isn't going to bring a nickel to America. So Trump's real challenges are not in Europe, but in three nations and their leaders: Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping, and Narendra Modi. In Putin, Trump faces a master strategist who thrives on unpredictability, arguably the most calculating leader of our time. In Xi, he faces the quiet power of China's long-term vision. With China's monopoly on rare earth minerals, its vast manufacturing ecosystem, and its unmatched efficiency, it could take the US decades to reach China's production scale and centuries to match its labor advantage. Xi Jinping knows this. He knows that America is no longer in the same race. And in Narendra Modi, Trump faces perhaps the most diplomatic leader of the modern world. A man who has built India's economy, strengthened ties with global powers, and stands as unapologetically patriotic and respected worldwide. These three leaders, Putin, Xi, and Modi, are anything but impulsive. They are patient, strategic, and seasoned. They know how to deal with Trump, and if necessary, they can simply wait out his presidency. Together, they represent nations that command the majority of the world's population. And Trump, despite his bravado, he is trying to dominate them all through tariffs and sanctions. More than 20,000 sanctions have been applied on Russia alone. And clearly, sanctions aren't as effective that they used to be in 90s because the countries have now bypassed dollars to trade. So you see, Trump, even though having the mightiest economic arsenal in his hand, and yet being proved ineffective by Russia, China, and India. The Western countries' dominance has ended after the World War II, and I think they are still in delusion that they can define morality and decide who belongs to the first world, second, or the third world. The truth, however, is no longer theirs to dictate. Today, as Trump talks of making everything in America, his promise sounds both patriotic and problematic at the same time. Manufacturing everything domestically means higher costs and a burden on American consumer and a blow to the American goods supply system. It's a dream that appeals to pride but clashes with economic reality. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the Ukraine-Russia war. Another global crisis where Trump claims he can end the war in 24 hours. But the truth is, Putin holds the stronger hand. Until President Putin makes NATO countries and Trump himself to agree on his term that serve Russia's interest, peace will remain distant. The war has become a chessboard for power, and Trump wants to be the one calling checkmate. And here's a catch: only if in Trump's presidency the Ukraine-Russia conflict gets resolved, then only the Europe will give him Nobel Prize. And for this, Trump has to agree or negotiate with Russia and bring an end to this situation and save Europe. After all, Nobel Prize is given by a European nation. How can they give the prize so easily? And if you ask me, perhaps it's Putin, not Trump, who deserves the Nobel Prize for showing restraint, avoiding escalation, and keeping the door to dialogues open, while NATO and the US seem unwilling to pursue peace without profit. Donald Trump never believed in climate change. He called it a hoax and rolled back more than 100 environmental protections, withdrew the US from the Paris Climate Agreement, and cut budgets for the EPA and climate research. Decisions that reflected not concern for the planet but for the profit. Anyway, Donald Trump may be many things, a visionary to some, a villain to others, but he is undeniably controversial, larger than life, and undoubtedly an impulsive decision maker. The media calls him unpredictable, but I don't think he is. To decode Trump now or in future, one must understand a single truth. He represents not just one man's ambition, but America's ongoing struggle between pride and power, between leadership and dominance. So whether history remembers him as a savior or a disruptor, one thing remains certain. Donald Trump has already rewritten the rules of power, and the world is still playing his game.